In today's NBA, big men are more or less expected to be as versatile as they can, which is why more and more players who we usually classify as big men have been developing some sort of perimeter game. But of course, 7-footers will be 7-footers, and the really good ones can definitely impact the game in a huge way just by hanging around the basket. And one of those guys is 21-year-old 7'2" center Moses Brown of the OKC Thunder, who has been taking NBA headlines by storm recently because of the things that he's been doing on the floor despite being an undrafted player in 2019. And a lot of people probably have never heard of the sophomore big man up until he put up 21 points and 23 rebounds against the Boston Celtics just a couple of games ago, well, depending on when you're watching this video. But with that stat line, Moses Brown made NBA history by becoming the first player since Shaquille O'Neal way back in '98 to post at least 17 points and 19 rebounds in a single half of an NBA game. And whether it is a coincidence or not, the day after, the Thunder immediately converted Brown's two-way contract into a full 4-year $6.8 million deal, which looks like a steal of a contract based on what this young player has been doing so far, and based on the projections of what he may become in the near future. But believe it or not, his amazing play on the court, which is fueled by his 7'2" frame and his 7'4" wingspan, doesn't really look like it's all hype either, because there are actually signs and data which show that Moses Brown can develop into one of the NBA's most dominant big men in the future. So what's good guys, it's Rero Balls here, and today, we'll try to dig deep and explain why Moses Brown has the potential and the makings of a really scary NBA big man. And we'll also try to project if it could really be the OKC Thunder center of the future. But before we move on, please do hit that like button if you happen to enjoy this video. It only takes a second of your time, but it definitely helps me make more content like this in the future, and it will be much appreciated. So let's get to it. Coming out of high school in New York in 2018, Moses Brown was considered one of the best young players in the country as he became a 5-star recruit and was seen as a big man who could really crush the competition at the next level. Well, ultimately, he played for UCLA in college, and in his lone season, he put up a decent 9.7 points and 8.8 rebounds on 61% shooting from the field in a span of 32 games, while also becoming the first player in the school's history since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to put up at least 19 points and 17 rebounds in a collegiate debut game. And back at that time, Brown was viewed by most NBA scouts as a very intriguing big man prospect because first, he had a rare combination of elite size and good body coordination for a guy who was above 7 feet tall. And also because he actually showed flashes of being a productive big man who can grab rebounds and block some shots at high volume. But to cut the story short, despite showing elite potential, Brown ended up not being picked in the 2019 NBA draft, which can be attributed to scouts pointing to his underdeveloped body as well as his inconsistent game. Yet eventually, he was signed by the Portland Trail Blazers to a two-way contract for the 2019 to 2020 season. But overall, his first NBA season only had him appearing in a total of 9 games where he logged a total of 33 minutes while only scoring 11 points for the entire year. So Thunder fans, we could basically thank Portland for letting this guy go after his two-way deal expired. And of course, huge props to the Thunder because most definitely, we wouldn't be talking about Moses Brown today if it wasn't picked up by OKC last offseason as a free agent. But it is what it is. Brown still didn't really get to crack OKC's rotation during the first few months of the 2021 season, as he only played an average of 4.6 minutes per game until the month of February. Then, as we know, the Thunder sent him to the G League's Orlando bubble in the middle of the season, and you already know it, as the guy flat out played out of his mind for the OKC Blue team, averaging 18.5 points and 14 rebounds per game, which eventually led him to be recognized as a member of the G League All-First Team and All-Defensive Team. Well, yeah, that was the G League, but I don't care what league you're playing in. If you're putting up those kinds of numbers at 21 years old and when you're 7'2", that definitely tells something about what you can do in the NBA moving forward. And Brown has definitely been able to build on that momentum from the G League after being recalled by the Thunder. As for the entire 11 games that he has been back, Brown has seen his playing time balloon to almost 28 minutes per game while averaging 11.8 points, 12 rebounds, 1.6 blocks and less than a steal, while also shooting at a highly efficient 58% from the field. And basically, with Al Horford being shut down for the remainder of the season, you can just expect Brown's numbers to keep improving as it looks like he has taken over the team's starting center position for now, with also very little competition for playing time. But what is it that's actually very special with Moses Brown's skill set which makes him look like a legitimate monster of a big man? Well, first of all, he's been a very dominant rebounder since coming back from the G League, and as of this video, he's played 11 games during the month of March and he's had a double-double in 7 of those games. And the rebounding numbers are actually eye-popping if you look at him. 23, 18, 16, 14, 12 rebounds. Well, of course, a lot of big men have put up those kinds of numbers before. But still, for a 21-year-old who's basically playing in what is to become his first complete NBA season, piling up those numbers over an 11-game span is actually very good. Well, the way I see it, Moses Brown isn't going to be the strongest guy on the court who can overpower people when boxing out, but his great footwork, timing, and his length allows him to easily pile up those boards when he's within range of grabbing one. And if you look at it, his 29.6 defensive rebounding percentage this season ranks in the 93rd percentile among all NBA players, with Capella, Valanciunas, Gobert, Kanter, Vucevic, and Embiid being the only players with higher percentages than him so far. And he can also do damage in the offensive glass. Well, he doesn't always convert on his putbacks, but the second chance opportunities that he gives his team is also invaluable, as he also grabs 2.8 offensive rebounds per game for the season, and his 16% offensive rebounding percentage is actually among the best in the entire league, as it ranks in the 98th percentile among all NBA players, as Clint Capella and Enes Kanter are the only 2 players grabbing offensive boards at a higher rate than him so far. So at this point in his young career, the numbers actually show that you can already project him to become one of the best rebounding machines in the league moving forward. And as for his offensive game, you can't really expect a lot from him at this point, aside from him being a cleanup type of player, as he mostly scores through dunks, putbacks, and through drop-offs from his teammates. And he's pretty much able to score easily around the paint as well because of his size and because of the ground that he covers, as he's currently taking almost 79% of his attempts within 3 feet of the basket and is converting at a very high 67% out of those shots. But yeah, overall, he's just a force on the inside, as according to NBA advanced statistics, he's being fouled on 22.4% of his total shot attempts, which also puts him in the 93rd percentile of big men in terms of drawing fouls. Well, right now, I think he's not yet a reliable shot creator, and he hasn't really established any kind of post-up game in the NBA level as well. And in fact, 62% of his total field goals were assisted by teammates. But personally, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because that shows that he doesn't really need to have the ball on his hands too much to make an impact on offense, meaning he knows how to integrate himself in an offensive system, and that's actually good considering that the Thunder have a good number of playmakers and shot creators in the team. But despite that, he's still averaging 1.1 points per possession this season, which puts him in the 84th percentile of all NBA players, which I think isn't bad for a guy who's considered as an offensively unpolished young big man. But of course, in the long run, I think it would be best if Brown developed some sort of a post game or post move, like maybe a hook shot or something. Because just imagine a 7'2" guy with a 7'4" wingspan with that kind of footwork consistently creating his own shots above the rim. Yeah, that would just be tough to guard even for the league's best defenders. And also, because of his mobility and footwork, I think you can also project Brown to become a constant threat in the pick and roll moving forward. I think his rim running ability at this point is pretty solid for a guy his size. And depending on how he could develop on that end, he could become a consistent pick and roll partner for SGA, who this season belongs to the 91st percentile of all pick and roll ball handlers in terms of points generated in the pick and roll per game. And I think Moses Brown also has very good potential on the defensive end. While he's put up a total of 18 blocks during the 18 games he's played this season, and he even had 5 blocks in a game against Chicago at one point. And basically, the way I see it, this guy has all the tools to become a really good defensive big man in a few years. I mean, he has lengthy arms, plus he has great vertical ability and timing. And currently, his 5.7 block percentage also puts him in the 93rd percentile of all NBA players, with Miles Turner, Nerlens Noel, Chris Boucher, Rudy Gobert, Clint Capella, and Jakob Poeltl being the only players having better block percentages than him. And even when he's not necessarily blocking shots, his size and length alone alters a lot of the shots that he's defended. And currently he's shown signs of awareness on the lane, most especially as a help side defender. And I think he's already comfortable defending drop coverages in the pick and roll because of his mobility and frame. But I think he'll be on a whole nother level as a defender if he develops into a big man who can defend cross matches in the perimeter against quick guards. Well, I think it's possible because we've seen that with Rudy Gobert before. Well, the guy is 7'1" and he was literally stuck in the paint on defense during his first few years in the NBA. But eventually, he just got quicker and is now able to switch on almost anyone in the perimeter, which I think is what basically makes him the best defender in the NBA regardless of position. And that's also one of the reasons why this early in his career it's very hard to project Moses Brown's ceiling. And as Thunder coach Mark Daigneault said in an interview, quote unquote, "One thing I found over time is that if you place a ceiling on a guy too soon, sometimes the ceiling is too low and you don't give them enough credit for how good they can be." And I definitely agree with that, so at this point, no matter how much I'd like to, I won't even dare make a projection for Moses Brown's ceiling. But the way I see it, I think his floor could be close to Jarrett Allen. While looking at it, both guys entered the league as mobile rim-running big men who had reputations of being capable inside scorers, rebounders, and shot blockers in college. Jarrett Allen is a 6'11" big who has an even longer 7'5" wingspan. And their biggest difference, I think, is that Allen basically had a perimeter game entering the NBA. But looking at their second-year statistics, you'll see that the numbers are strikingly similar. While of course, Moses Brown didn't really play much during his rookie year, but I'm still gonna consider this season as his second year because technically it actually is. So anyway, in his sophomore season in Brooklyn, Jarrett Allen has averaged at least 2.7 more points, 0.5 more rebounds, and 0.3 more blocks than what Moses Brown is averaging this season. But it's worth noting that Allen also averaged at least 8 more minutes of playing time more than what Moses Brown is averaging so far. And looking at their per 36-minute stats, you'll see that Moses Brown's numbers are actually far better than Jarrett Allen's in terms of points, rebounds, and blocks, which likely means that he's been more productive so far as compared to Jarrett Allen during his second season. But it's not like those numbers tell us that Brown will exactly become a better player than Jarrett Allen is moving forward, or that he'll put up Jarrett Allen type of numbers in the future either. But if any, I think this indicates that, at the very least, Moses Brown can become just as valuable as Jarrett Allen moving forward, which I think isn't a bad floor projection for an undrafted big man like him. But overall, no matter how good Moses Brown may turn out to be, it becomes more and more apparent that the OKC Thunder have landed another undrafted steal for the second year in a row after finding Lou Dort. And definitely, Brown is in the perfect spot to develop, as he can get all the chances that he can to play his game without any substantial amount of restrictions. And considering that he's just 21 and that he has tons of upside, I think this should just put him in a better position to be the Thunder's big man of the future and to be one of the best centers in the NBA in a few years' time. So what do you guys think about Moses Brown's future in the NBA? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below, and please do consider subscribing to the channel as well. Again, this is Rero Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace!